Greetings, Jerry Ultimate Power Gamer coming to you today with an announcement. This is going to be my first kind of a tactical video, and it's going to be on deployment. Now, over the last few months, I've both seen and heard players questioning, asking about what's the best way to deploy their forces. So, you know what? I thought I've seen some other people answer this, so I figured, hey, I'll do it the Ultimate Power Gamer way. I'll give you my opinion on it. So, one of the most important aspects to me of deployment in when I'm playing in games of Kings of War is that, first of all, I want to try to find a place to put what I like to call my house. Now, I know you're probably saying, what's a house? Okay? Well, what I think a house is the area of the battlefield that you pick out for yourself to set up and either defend or attack your opponent's forces from. So basically, when you're trying to determine where your house is, you're looking at a couple of things. Number one, what scenario are you playing? Now, Clash of Kings 2018 came out and gave us 12 scenarios. So based on a scenario basis, that's a lot of stuff to go over, so I'm going to save that for another video, okay? But the number two factor you're going to look at when you're trying to decide where to set up your house is, you're going to take a look at both long table edges, and you're going to try to figure out which table edge offers your army type the most advantages, while at the same time, the opposite table edge would be providing your opponent's forces the most disadvantages, or minimizing the advantages for your opponent's force. Now, as an example of that, let's say you had you're playing a heavy shooting army. Well, if you're playing a heavy shooting army, what you're going to be looking for a table edge is you want to be able to have a place where there are lots of clear lanes of fire for your shooting, and or hills you can put your missile troops on so that you can have some unobstructed views and unobstructed shooting at your opponent. Flip the script on the other end of that spectrum. If you're playing a predominantly melee oriented force, you're going to be looking for an edge of the table that provides you with cover to advance on your opponent, or maybe if there were hills on that side, you want to take that so your opponent couldn't have those hills to allow you to be able to engage with them, to close the distance with them, to engage with less shooting casualties. Okay? So once you decide on a table edge, the next thing you're going to want to look at is how wide of an area, how big of a footprint your army is going to be. Now, if you could ideally put your army in a 3-foot section on either flank of the table, or locate it somewhere in the center, that would be the most ideal, perfect situations. Now, unfortunately, depending on the amount of points you're playing and or the type of army you're playing, a 3-foot section footprint may not be too reasonable. But if you could try to get as close to that as possible, or have a smaller footprint as possible, the better you are at achieving that, the better you're going to be at setting up what I like. Okay, now for the practical stuff. So in this picture, basically we have 1,000 point of Empire of Dust set up at the lower part of your screen, and at the top we have 1,000 point of the Herd. Now basically the Empire of Dust army is set up in a flank denial. They have their house set up in the left-hand flank of the table. They're using the terrain to their advantage. The shooting, starting from left to right, we have 2 hordes of Guardian Archers and then a horde of Chariots. Now, that's set up with the table being like this. All 3 of those units can shoot to best advantage because they have lots of clear lanes of fire with nothing in the way to block them down. Next over from that horde of Chariots, we have a horde of Revenants, and behind the horde of Revenants is a regiment of Scavengers. So we've got the hand-to-hand combat ready to engage when and if the units get across the table within charge distance, and we also have the regiment of Scavengers back there to play a little slow somebody down if they need to, kind of like a chaff. Now, the Herd at the top of the screen, basically on the upper left-hand side, we have a troop of Spirit Walkers. Next over, we have 2 regiments of Spirit Walkers, followed by a troop of Spirit Walkers. There next to that, we have 2 more regiments of Spirit Walkers. Then we have 2 troops of Beast Pack, and we have a horde of Giant Eagles. Now, basically, the Herd player, or this Herd army, is not set up to take best advantage of the terrain, But since they have Pathfinder, the idea here would be for everybody to just rush across to try to engage as soon as possible, and hopefully the right flank there, the Beast Pack and the Giant Eagles will be able to zip across and engage to try to shut down something. That's pretty much a solid plan. It's pretty much how a lot of people do it. A lot of players do it their battle lines. But the thing about this is still the shooting army, in this case Empire Dust, is going to get 2 to 3 turns of solid shooting before they have to have anything engaged here. So we have the smaller frontage of the Empire Dust scoring off. In this case, their smaller frontage is made up of their main thing, which is shooting, and they're going to be kind of like a laser pin pointing down, knocking out, you know, all fire, concentrating on a unit at a time to try to knock it out, to try to punch holes in this standard battle line deployment of the herd. Okay, so in this picture what we have is basically the Empire Dust set up the same deployment, still doing that flank denial, but the herd player has set their army up in such a way that they can take better advantage of the terrain. They've got their house slightly off center. Going from left to right, front row, we've got 2 troops of Spirit Walkers. Next over, we've got a regiment of Spirit Walkers, followed by a troop of Spirit Walkers, and then a Beast Pack. Behind that is a Beast Pack and Giant Eagle, and there towards the center we've got 2 more regiments of Spirit Walkers. Now this is designed, it's a combat army, and basically by placing like this, they're out of line of sight and out of good arc for a lot of the shooting the Empire Dust player would be having. And depending on if they got to go first or not, they could actually get their units out of the way so that the heavy hitters for the Empire Dust, the Guardian Archers, wouldn't even be able to take shots on them, so the Guardian Archers would be wasting time moving to get in position, so they, you know, because they have reload, they wouldn't be able to shoot. Once again, the fast stuff is on the flank there, and they'd be trying to zip across to put threats on the they'd be trying to zip across to threaten the right flank of the Empire Dust player. Now in this instance, it still might take them 2 to 3 turns to get into position to actually put a hurt, but as opposed to the other picture, this time the herd player should be able to get more of their army across the table to engage without having heavy losses to missile fire. So basically that's that for my quick UPG deployment video. I'd really like to know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you guys like stuff like this. Questions or comments about my my 2 pictures, about my thoughts, my way of doing this. Love to hear them. Also, I'd like to take this time to mention this year in October 20th and 21st is the Dragonfall tournament. It's the 2nd annual UPG gaming event at Dragonfall. 2-day event. It's going to be a 1995 point tournament. Tournament pack is up. Look below for the link to the site. Hope to see a lot of you guys there. Till next time, bye.